Gary, welcome back to the Wade Champions podcast. Jerry and I are so thrilled and so honored that you're back on here.
I'm excited to be here. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys and see your faces, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well,
Yeah.
the last time we had you on, you were coaching the Syracuse women, and since you've made the switch to the Syracuse men, I know we have a ton to talk about today. But I told Jerry he's going to do the heavy lifting here today, so I'm going to turn it over to him to kick it off. So Jerry, take it away, man.
Well, what I want to say is that's a very important component. Maybe we should dive in with that, but we definitely don't want to miss it. Gary definitely, I've had experience with with you, Gary, at
Yeah,
the college level, both Maryland and Syracuse women,
yeah,
and then with the men at the pro level.
yes.
And so I got to see you work both. But yeah, I think our listeners would really, really be grateful to hear us talk about that. But anyway, what comes up for me is the number three. It's one of my favorite numbers, and when I look at you, there's so many threes. Uh, three NCAA titles when you were a student at Syracuse,
Yeah,
athlete. If I'm wrong here, correct me, please. But three NLL titles, National Lacrosse League Pro.
yeah,
Then Pro three MLL titles,
yeah,
uh, three Mann Cup titles. Is that correct?
yeah. So
Y-
far, we're hitting threes on the
What,
on my major
We should be
championship.
what
golfing.
about
We
what
should be
about
golfing.
what? Yeah, par. What about three Hall of Fame inductions? And there are so many other titles. In fact, when we were talking just before we got on here, what was the title you just went and won with a younger group of people?
Well,
First time?
those are all my playing stats you're giving right there. So,
Yeah, yeah,
although some of them I was the head coach, player head coach on
yeah.
a couple of those, and
Well, yeah, you were with the Colorado Mammoth because the first year that you got that job, you invited me to work with you, and
yeah,
you won the championship that year.
that was a fourth for me. So yeah, but
Yeah,
as a player, those stats you gave are accurate. Hall of Fames, I'm not sure.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
there's been
let's
a
just
couple local regionals, but indoor, outdoor, Canada,
yeah.
US,
For our
BC. So a few. There's been a few more than
what's the
three.
most recent one? You were up at in Canada.
Uh, I well, I've
The
had
world championship you were
the
talking about.
Hall of Fames are the Hall of Fame. Well, the Hall of Fames are interesting because you get named in, teams get in. So I have multiple teams
Yeah,
that have been in multiple Hall of Fames as well. But
yeah, yeah.
um, I this summer I spent well, this last year, in fact, 2 summers I spent selecting the Canadian U20 men's national team for the World Championship. And we had a really interesting scenario happen where the World Championship happened to be run at the same time as the most prestigious Canadian national championship, the Minto Cup, the Junior A Championship. And the Minto Cup is 21 and under box lacrosse championship for Canada. And I can personally tell you, I went to it. I think I hold the record with my brother for the most consecutive losses. But I went to it 5 years in a row. And the first four we lost, and the fifth one we finally found a way to win. A breakout year, 1988, three championships in the single year, like you talk about. Another three
Another
that
three.
year.
Yeah,
1988. That was a definitely a year of the threes there. Um, so I go to select this team, and the issue is the U20 group all play in this on teams that are trying to vie for the Minto Cup. And so we came up with a deposit, like they don't have to pay to go, but we're trying to say if we try these guys out and we select them and then their team goes to the Canadian Championships, they're probably going to not go.
Hmm.
So we vetted everything throughout the application process, did it all the way through. And every guy that came and tried out said, yes, I'm committed 100%. We
Mm.
ended up losing five guys right before we went.
Hmm.
So, we didn't even take our best team over to the World Championships or what the coaches thought would be our best team.
Hmm.
Sure.
But
Sure.
we certainly made up for the talent with the chemistry we were able to develop, and we were lucky to win the U20 World Championship for
Yeah.
men
Yeah.
over
Well,
in.
you say luck, but chemistry is not luck. So,
No.
chemistry is something that comes from the leadership, and it filters down, which brings me back to you. The leadership that you've demonstrated over the years. You're just getting better and better. Now that you're coaching men at Syracuse. Uh,
Can
I
can
had
I
a,
just jump in, Jerry, just real quick? Like really
absolutely.
really interesting because it's obviously a different like dynamic coaching a national team versus like a college team where you're seeing them all year long and everything. How do you manage that differently to more quickly build that bond? Maybe, you're doing stuff together while you're not together physically. But also, be really fascinated to know. I just talked to a professional soccer coach who was talking about getting his best player traded away in the middle of the season, in the middle of a playoff rush. And well, how do you go to that locker room and say, okay, this guy's not here now, but we still believe in you? So, like, how do you grab your team and say, okay, these five guys
Well,
aren't coming and
that
we're
that
still
was the
good?
other thing is that because of this, we delayed our selection process, and we actually never had a formal training camp together.
Hmm.
We selected the team in the middle of June, and we left, in August. We got back together on our way, and we didn't have our first training camp until we flew all the way over to Tokyo and had 2 days together before we went to the World Championship. So
Yeah.
it wasn't the team we selected. So I think that the real key was the selection of the staff.
Hmm.
For me, that's what really generated the chemistry, like you said. It's coaching, and we had obviously multiple calls, and we did have two or three selection camps, one out west, one out east, and then kind of two all together, one last summer, and then one and a final one this summer. So, we know we're going up against the US, who's had multiple training camps with their team pretty much selected for over a year. So they had the chance to train and we didn't. So we just, as a staff, said, you know what? We just got to put it all together and get buy-in. And that was our number one uh, kind of focus point as a coaching staff was, get these guys to believe in each other, kind of like it gave us a rally cry to say, screw those guys that don't want to be here. You guys want to be here. This is it.
Wow.
It's about us, and then that's what we
Yeah.
focused on.
Yeah.
We didn't care about the US. We didn't care about it. We just cared about, how we were going to play together, how we were going to come together. And um,
Like
yeah,
play for each other.
and really, I think,
Like a brotherhood.
it's all the cliches of national championship or world championship teams, and we were able to do it in a 2 week period, which
Yeah.
was probably one of the more impressive points of this that the staff pulled off, that they got the buy-in and they built the chemistry, and we strategically did some things that and certainly talked about. We drew from all of our experiences, and we had every guy on my staff had won championships at multiple levels. So we'd all done it before, but we've all lost. So we all knew we know what it feels like to go either way. And when you don't get that chemistry, you don't get that buy-in, and you fail miserably. And then we've all been on teams where you do get that buy-in, and we all sat around and talked about some of our experiences that, one of the years, Jerry, that one of my staff guys, two of the staff guys, coaches, were a part of. John Gallant was one of my defensive coaches, and he was part of that Mammoth team. And he referenced
Yeah.
that team a few times and some of the things that they did and how they came together.
Yeah. Because
And
you guys were 10-6, if I recall.
you're
At
exactly, we were 5-5. And then everybody kind of came together and bought in, and we ended up in the regular season 10-6,
yeah.
and then went on and won all the playoff games and became world champions. So, but it was, it was a lot of the work that you did with our team, but it was a few things off that they came together and they found a way to build chemistry
Hmm.
outside of, and
Hmm.
there's a couple things I probably won't talk about, but they had some funny rituals that that
Yeah.
really made them tight and brought them together, that they kept amongst themselves, and
Yeah.
and
Well,
you know
ritual, as we know, creates family, and
yep,
when you have that kind of family, you're willing to die for each other. And I remember that team. I was there that first year, and they were just a bunch of hungry wolves, and they were going to beat up anybody. They were going to bleed for whatever it took, and of course, it gets back to the coaching. You opened up the opportunity for that to happen, and they jumped in. You didn't close that down at all, whereas some other coaches want to take over and, be the boss and, show them the way, but they knew how to do it. They were all, this brings up something really close to me, and that is let's go back to 1995. Like this is before you were really like, I think you were like, I remember you were assistant coach at Maryland. I think you were
yep,
28 when I met you,
yep.
and I was 19 or something like that, close to it. But I remember, well, the first thing I remember was walking through the BWI, the airport, and I walk through a lot of airports, and I see a lot of murals in the airport. Very interesting. You see a Michael Jordan in Chicago. And I go to Maryland, and there's a mural of Gary Gait, and I hadn't met you yet, and it was like it was on my way for the first meeting, and Cindy said, "Yeah, well, Gary Gait, who's Gary Gait?" But when I got off the plane, I saw this mural. It's like, oh my God, like what an honor for me, and what a privilege, and I get to meet you, and the story there, for those that don't know it, is you brought amazing amount of technique strategies that other teams didn't have. And here you were coaching women, and we wound up winning 7 consecutive national championships. I mean, yes, you have to have the talent. I mean, when you have a Jen Adams for 4 years, I mean, that's almost a guarantee you're going to win 4 championships. But still, you brought so much to that team. I'm wondering if the coaches can hear how you perceived your gift to that team that won 7 championships in a row.
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
remember. I remember it well. I remember, my first year we lost to Princeton in the final game, and it was, at the time, I was just getting my feet wet, didn't know much about it, but um, I think I went to the coaches convention. Half the players used wooden sticks back then, which most of the young ladies today couldn't believe that it was only 95 they were still using wooden sticks,
yeah,
because they were out of the men's game for many years before that. They left the game in like 71. But on the women's side, they lasted all the way until about 95. After we won our first championship, um, that's when people started saying, okay, there's something to this. Why these plastic sticks? Because I converted the entire Maryland team in 94, my first year. Half of them used wood. The next year, I really got into it a lot more and said, you know what? There's a reason equipment provides opportunity, advancement in equipment. And the modern stick allowed you to do and develop different skills. And I looked at the game as just lacrosse. So I didn't look at it as women's lacrosse. I didn't look at it differently than I would at coaching a men's team. I looked at skill development. I looked at offense, defensive concepts. And my strategy was always, what's the best way to do something? And how do you gain an advantage over your opponents? So whether it's a stick that holds the ball better, allows you to shoot harder, whether it's the way you cradle the ball allows you to run faster than the other players. It was like it was really interesting because the women's game was built on tradition and they were slow to change. Um, when I started, there were no boundaries, there were no restraining lines. They had the goal crease and the arc and the fan, but that was it. And so I attacked it like, oh my God, it's 12 on 12. So we went right into like, what can we do here that's different, that's not been done? And at the time they had all these positions that were just names and people just stayed in those positions for no reason. So like attack didn't come across down to the other end. And I said, why? Why aren't they helping out on defense?
Hmm.
And they said, well, that's not their position. And I said, yeah, but the more people you have on defense, the harder it is to score. And then vice versa down the other end. So we went, I guess Marilyn Cindy there at the time changed the game for the first time by actually playing 12 on 12 inside the scoring areas. And that had never been done before. So that was the first change. But what that helped move along was it helped implement the first restraining lines.
Hmm.
And that's, because we'd won 3 championships in a row. I know, Jerry, you came in on the second one and we
Hmm.
started working with you, and it just, you know, built that level of confidence. It was amazing. So it it changed the game because now the coaches are looking at, we don't want to see everybody trying to play 12 on 12 because it could slow the game right down.
Hmm.
So they said, let's implement restraining lines. I'm like, perfect, great.
Yeah.
And that really launched the Jen Adams era because she came in and just was able to play attack for the first time in the history of women's lacrosse. No one was able to be just an attacker. They had to either they could, but for a short window, everybody was doing everything. And then it went back to positions by the use of restraining lines. So it was interesting.
Yeah. Plus, you brought a lot of, as I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, but you brought a lot of the men's game to the women. The men's game, meaning I don't think any woman had ever thought about the idea of throwing a pass behind your back or shooting a goal behind your back.
Again, I never thought men's like because I grew up as a kid and every game I ever played in every league had different rules. So I played box and then I started box lacrosse at age 4, but then you play not non-contact into contact and all this stuff. And then I started playing field at 11, and that was a totally new set of rules you had to learn. And then you play international rules, and you play league rules, and you have college rules, and everybody had different rules. So when I took the women's job, I just read the rule book. And I said, this is just lacrosse. It's just a different set of rules. So I just taught, like I said from the beginning, I just taught skills. better
Mm,
ways to shoot, better ways to dodge, better ways to organize offense, defense. And that was my only strategy is that you can do more with the stick than what you're doing, but you're not being taught it at the time. They were being taught traditional two-hand kind of a windshield wiper movement, which you can't run fast while cradling the ball that way. And plus, you present the stick for a check every time you bring it in front. So it was just that was probably the first thing I did is like, you got to be able to protect the ball better and run faster with it. Like, let's cradle it differently. And I actually started teaching them how to cradle one-handed to two hands, keeping the stick on the side of you so the body protects it, all those types of skills. And that's really what I focused on was developing the skills that now players use every day
yeah.
and coaches coach every day.
It revolutionized the game for sure for women.
Well, I
But
think Cindy, that stretch of seven championships and Cindy with her camp business and the opportunity to work and teach she trained hundreds of coaches through that process because she ran camps, multiple camps throughout the summer, some of the largest camps in the country by far. And she touched all those players, and a lot of those players then became coaches. So she really
yeah,
gave them tools to not just do what a traditional style at the time of women, and it really allowed for a rapid change in the game.
hmm
The fact that she was probably getting 4 or 5 thousand kids through her, and then hiring all those coaches to teach what we were teaching at Maryland. So it kind of it probably changed lacrosse, I would think,
It's
yeah,
for the
it's
women.
what I love Jerry about. I mean, I've met Cindy through Jerry, and what I love about her is like she at the top she said what's next, whether that's hiring you, how do we change offenses, defenses, and then also to share it. But even to this day, Cindy's like one of the most curious people you ever meet. Like, what else you got? What are you reading? What are you seeing out there? She's walking around telling everyone to watch Ted Lasso, like this is Cindy is just like,
Yeah.
hey, what's next? What's next? What's next? And it's just such a great example. Like, I think the best coaches are always the most curious. They're not just, okay, well, I figured it out now. They always have that beginner's mindset in a way.
Yeah, the beginner's mindset, but they're also trying to challenge to do things that haven't been done before. Do them. There's always different ways to do them. Um, and I agree 100% with that. She was willing to take on anything. Um, I went and I really learned a lot from her. And one of the things I in my position now is I had to draw on my experience of my days working for Cindy, where I was when I was coaching the women, I was always the offensive coordinator and head coach. And then I took on the men's job here, and we had a really strong Pat March, really strong offensive coordinator, top five offensive coach the last 10 years in college lacrosse. And he I had, it was hard to keep your hands kind of out of it a little bit and sit back and just give pointers or this or that when you're so used to actually doing it all. So I kind of thought back to, well, when I was at Maryland, Cindy, she let me do what I did, and I need to let Pat March do what he does. And I think our teams, I kind of embraced that after the first year, and we got a lot better since then.
that's a such an important point and an observation that I have. For those of you who are listening, Cindy Timshall she's now the head coach at Maryland women's lacrosse, and
At Navy
Navy,
now,
and
Navy.
what did I say?
You said
Maryland,
Navy.
but that's
Maryland.
okay. She was there a long
She was
time,
there. She
state
won
championship.
eight championships at Maryland. She's now at Navy. Thanks for correcting me on that. But the sense that I get, and this is good for coaches that are listening, that head coaches, and what you're referring to, Gary, is you've got to let go. You've got to trust in those you hire for the job that they're doing to let them do the job. And if they need help, they'll come to you. They'll ask you, Gary, what do you think here? You know? Uh, and and I walk into I know nothing about lacrosse in 1995. I mean, I really don't. And so I learned a lot that first year, but one of the things I learned is Cindy coaching. I learned about coaching, and that is she gave me all the permission in the world. I would say to her, "So what do you want me to do?" She says, "Jerry, whatever you do is going to be good." You know, so she wasn't there directing me. I want the kids to learn this. I want them to do that. It was just like, go, Jerry, just go have fun, do whatever you want. And that permission for me coming from a head coach allowed me to come into my best because I was learning as I was going at Maryland as well. And I'm still learning. But if I'm not in that environment, so for all you coaches listening who head coach Gary, what you're saying is it's a struggle, but it's really worth it to let go and to let others take the reign and do the work that you hire them to do. Yeah,
Yeah. And I know some coaches are struggle with that. And then the other side of it is to, if you are doing that, to actually mentor and develop the coaches by involving them. And
yeah,
I know I've heard multiple stories about coaches that get hired and then they don't get the opportunity to really do anything except everything the head coach tells them to do.
yeah, yeah.
And they're not really, and a lot of times there's no conversation. That's where I'm really going with this is you got to include that player and ask them their opinions, that coach, if you want them to actually develop. And
Mhm.
sometimes some head coaches are just going to tell their assistants, do this drill, coach it this way. And they don't really have a conversation. Well, what do you think? And that's what, the other thing Cindy was great that way. What do you think? How would you do it? And
Hmm.
it allowed me to really think and give my opinion. And she kind of embraced what she liked and it kind of all worked out.
Yeah,
Well,
and she, good, Jerry.
it's funny. I just think is like this goes for sport and in business as well as people say, well, what if I teach them everything and they leave? And it's like, well, what if you don't teach them anything and they stay? Like that's the problem, right? Um,
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
yeah. So,
John,
so that's
this sounds like a good time to throw out your question there to Gary. I think it's brilliant.
yeah, Gary, I'm curious. First of all, I want to just explore this transition going from obviously a very successful stint as the women's coach at Syracuse to transitioning to coaching the men. So what brought about that? And then Jerry and I would love to explore some of the similarities and some of the differences that you found. But first of all, what brought that about, this change to the men's program?
Oh my gosh. It all started back when I was at Maryland. And I was there a bunch of years and I had a bunch of programs reaching out to ask if I'd be interested in coaching men's. And I was, I didn't even think, I honestly never thought, even in 2, 3 years in, I didn't really think of coaching as a career. It was kind of weird because I was playing pro. I had my camp business where I ran boys instructional camps around the country. And so I was doing okay. And I was playing, fledgling indoor professional league. Um, and then the outdoor league started and I was playing Canadian box in the summer. So I was really focused on being a player and coaching just kind of happened. And even when I was with Cindy, I wasn't looking for another job at all or opportunity. So a couple came up and I kind of asked Cindy, what do you think? And I think she said, well, I think the, you should go talk to the AD because I think the men's coach here is going to leave one day, going to retire, Dick Adele, Coach Adele, and you should talk to them about potentially becoming the men's coach here because you got these opportunities. People are reaching out to you. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So I did. I went to Debbie Yao, the AD at the time, and I asked her, I'd love to be the next men's coach here. What do you need me to do? I said, I can go get head coaching experience or men's coaching experience, which I did. I started coaching internationally. On the men's side, I did my first two stints as a U20 coach for Canada on the men's side while I was coaching women. And then I got involved in some pro lacrosse. And and then a couple years went by, coach stayed, and then a couple more offers came my way. I went back, reiterated to Debbie Yao, I'd really like to stay. I can go get head coaching experience if you want me to. And she said, no, I think if you stay, that's your best shot to become the head coach here of the men. So fast forward 9 years after I started at Maryland, Dick Adele retires. They open up the job. I applied for it. Um, I didn't get it. You know, Dave Cottle got it. And so I stepped away from Maryland. And again, I went back. I was uh, coaching professionally with the Baltimore Bayhawks, player coach. And on the men's side, I stepped away from college coaching. It was an awesome time for me. Got my buddies together. We bought a pro indoor team, the Baltimore Thunder, um, and I was able to play for them and be a part of the ownership group. And we became the Washington Power. And then we sold the team to Stan Kroenke, and they're now the Colorado Mammoth. And but the best part of all that, I had 5 years of not coaching college, and it was right when my kids were kind of in that middle school age. And I
Mm.
coached both of their teams for 5 years and got to spend quality time with them, worked from home a lot. And it was a great time in there. I'm so glad I did that. I would have missed out if I had stayed in college coaching because, the 9 years I was at Maryland, I was commuting from northern Baltimore an hour each way to work and recruiting and playing professionally. I was busy. So it really allowed me to get some quality family time in, and I really do appreciate that. And I'm glad I walked away. And then eventually came back to Syracuse, my alma mater, and got back into the women's game. I'd taken 5 years off there from coaching women's lacrosse. So
And you had
and
two of your children go on to play college lacrosse. Brandon, right? Is it Brandon?
Braden, yeah, Braden played at
Braden
Princeton,
went Princeton.
and my daughter Taylor played for me at Syracuse. So it was
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Yeah. What made you switch to the men at Syracuse?
The offer,
The offer, yeah.
the
Just a
offer to be
new
honest.
challenge, new challenge, yeah.
Yeah, well, like I was again, I was still coaching men's. I had professionally, I even when I was coaching the women, I was coaching in the MLL. The last couple of years, I was coaching with Reggie Thorpe. We had the Hamilton Nationals of the MLL, and we did that for a couple of years. And then I went back, came out of retirement, and started playing in my almost mid 40s. And just to come back because I'd like to stay busy, and it was a challenge, and I wanted to challenge myself. So I came out of retirement again, played for the Rochester Nighthawks, and came back in the Toronto Nationals, and it was a great time, and that was more fun because my kids were older and they got to see me play again, and But they said, Dad, you don't look like you used to. I go, no, I'm much slower. It was pretty funny. So
But
great
quicker up
experience.
here.
So I was always involved with the men, coaching, on the Canadian side internationally still. I had won a world championship as the head coach of the Canadian indoor national team, right after I'd won the with the Mammoth. So it was kind of a good year. I think that one was two championships, not three, Jerry, but it was close in the same year. But that was a very good year. And that was, '05, '06 there. It was great and lots of fun. So I had always been in with the men, coaching the women here, the athletic director. We went to the Final Four in 2021 after COVID,
Mhm.
and we lost in the national championship to Boston College. And the athletic director had come on the trip with us, and it was really the first time he'd been around our women's team. And it was definitely different because he was around at everything. He came to all the meals, practice, shoot arounds, games. So it was very different than what a normal AD would do. Now that I look back on it, I say that, but at the time he was just there. And then I got back after that loss, and we got back on Sunday. I think he called me Monday and he said, "Do you want to mind stopping by my house?" And I said, "Sure, I'll come by." And he asked me if the men's job opened up, would I be interested in it? And I said, absolutely. I played here. It would be
Yeah.
incredible. I've always wanted to coach college men's and the opportunity, it's obviously sad when you leave a program you've helped build, but that's the nature of coaching, is to challenge yourself and move forward and move up.
Yeah.
And I went from coaching a national championship finalist team to coaching, having a very rough first year in the men's in the men's collegiate world, going 4-10.
Mhm.
So it was a challenge, and it
But
was
this is going to be your fourth year with the men,
fifth year.
fifth year. So last year, your fourth year,
Yeah.
you wind up building the program back. I think it was 2009, the last time you guys have been to a Final Four.
Yeah, it was 12 years. Yeah. No, I
12,
think it was after that. It was 12, it was 13 or something like that.
13. Yeah, I
So
like
it was
13. I
12.
like the number 1-3. That's the
Yeah,
three
yeah.
again. But
So
anyway, so you got that back to the Final Four. You brought them back, and which, if I could segue into this, USA. I was no noticing in USA Lacrosse that they're actually uh, putting you as the number two team in the nation. That's what they're predicting.
yeah,
And any other chart, you guys are in the top five easily. You went to the Final Four last year. You lost in the first game to Maryland.
yeah.
But what an experience for these guys. Now you have a lot of the kids returning. You lose Hiltz, English, Rice. Uh, how was the portal to you?
You know what? The portal, we picked up a short stick D-midi, Dante Bowen from Ohio State, but we really thought we've been developing players. And the portal for lacrosse is very different than the portal for basketball and football. And I think a lot of sports fans may not realize that. But basketball, it's kind of like NIL, same difference, right? NIL and football and basketball, the portal. If you make a roster, you're getting a full scholarship in football and basketball.
Mhm.
Like, you go in the portal, someone wants you, it comes with a full scholarship. Lacrosse is not that way.
Mhm.
We were 12.6 on the men's side for scholarships, divided amongst 50 players or so. So it's a real hard decision to jump in the portal, because it's not like oh, I'll just go start somewhere else if someone takes me because there's not scholarship dollars to be offered.
Hmm.
Now with NIL, the portal, that's kind of where the portal's used, is to spend NIL dollars trying to get those kids to transfer to you.
Hmm.
But it's COVID was very good for everybody for lacrosse because that's more like football and basketball where all Americans were in the portal
Hmm.
and potential all Americans were in the portal. That's not happening unless somebody had an injury
Hmm.
in lacrosse.
Hmm.
I know there's a couple kids down at another school that were, that type of players, and there was only a two or three of them in the portal last year compared to the years before where there were all Americans galore. And, I got Sam English, Jake Stevens from Princeton that had been to a Final Four, and, those kids became available. And, it's not like that anymore. It's just that mostly the kids that have had an injury and graduate from their college and have an extra year. So it's
Hmm.
very different, and they're not guaranteed full scholarships. And we kind of look at we use if our scholarships used up, NIL's just helping them pay for school.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we're not at the stage where lacrosse kids are getting full scholarships in NIL.
But that's, I
John,
mean,
I'm
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just give me
I,
a chance to follow up with this
yeah,
a
yeah,
little.
yeah.
Uh, so where I was going with all this is I think there's a lot of pressure. At Syracuse, I mean, the Syracuse fans they're tough.
Oh yeah,
They're tough. You got to win a championship. Come on, bring us back. Final Four is not going to do it. So my thought, knowing Syracuse the way I do, is that there's a lot of people saying this is a title year or bust, right? But also
oh yeah,
but I know you, and what I know about you, and again, you can elaborate on this, Gary, is you can't go into your team with this concept of title or bust that the fans want or the administration wants. You're more of a win the day kind of guy, aren't you?
absolutely.
You're a coach who what can we do today to get 1% better? Talk about that.
Well, I am, but I also have to convince these players that they can win it all.
That's important. Yeah.
Like that was real quick back to the U20. That was the number one thing that I worked on with that group was getting them to believe that we can win this and that we're not just there to come second or third, right? Like we put it together, we can win. Team over talent. So that's always important. But once they have a belief they can win, then it's about the day-to-day process. It's about getting better. It's about helping your teammates, being a great teammate, being a great leader on a daily basis and stringing them together so it's a weekly basis. And then hopefully by the end of the year it was an amazing year and it all adds up and you put yourself in that position and the pressure's on like it's so crazy. You look at the football teams and it's so amazing how every institution is expecting their teams to win. There's only one. There's only one.
Yeah.
But the pressure is amazing, and anything less than that championship is failure. And I believe that we can win here again at Syracuse, and I'm convincing that guys. But the goal is to win in life and make sure that you come out of Syracuse, you get your education, but you learn how to win every day, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And you're not always going to get the trophy, but you're always going to have success. And that's certainly what I try and instill in my players that, success comes in many ways, like just like the old Jordan, I've missed way more than I've ever made, you know. I've lost more than I've ever won. Um, I'm probably one of the lucky guys that can say that it's not that bad, but as far as championships go, yes, I've lost more than I've won,
Hmm.
but certainly not in games and things
How,
like that. But
I'm curious. I'm curious, Gary. What maybe share like one tool or one thing you do to instill belief
Mm.
and maintain hunger, right? Like you don't want the belief to become entitlement, right? So you want belief without any entitlement that I have to show up and work hard every single day, even though I believe we're good enough to do this. How do you do that in collectively in individual meetings? Probably combination of all those things.
I think it's all of that. It, like I've always told my players, and I think I may have said this on the last podcast, like I always have a gut feeling and belief in every game I coach till till the very end that we're gonna come back and win. We're gonna win every game. We can still win it. Like it's just innate in me from a young age. I loved winning. It drove me to be better. And I had last time we talked, I talked about my childhood and having a coach that inspired how to win, but just that feeling and that success of winning, it became part of me. So I'm trying to instill that in my players that you truly got to feel it and believe it and be and then you got to go do the work. And that's where that comes in. It's meetings, it's your staff being on the same page, that the message is the same and and then kind of how you plan it out, like um that part, what we're focusing on. I think that the real last step for me is here at Syracuse is really getting these guys wanting to win and on the same page. And I'm working on something unique with my team down the road here this year that I'm really excited about, and we can talk more about it down the road. But
Mhm.
I'm creating a way to help them have an experience more like I did.
Mm.
So I'm actually trying to do something that reflective of my experience, having worked with Jerry and so many other sports psychologists over the years. I'm feeling like, everybody has a different way to look at championship performance. And I'm kind of drawing on my youth to my career, everything, trying to like, how can I really implement this with a bunch of, 18 to 24-year-olds now, all these COVID years and things. Um, how do I implement it so they can really truly experience it and learn it?
Mm.
So that's my goal this year. The team stuff's pretty similar, the skills and all that, but I want to try and do something a little bit different. And and I think I got a plan, and I'm implementing it in early January, and it should be fun. Be something
Mm.
fun to talk about down the
Well,
road.
I'd love to know what that is.
Off
I
the
guess
air, we
I
could
I
talk
guess I have
about
to wait,
it.
huh?
Oh,
We have to
yeah,
wait
yeah.
for
No,
that.
we
Next
could
year.
certainly love to talk to you off the air about it, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it's always a work in progress,
We
these things. So
we've had two coaches on the podcast recently, Jenny Levy, who you know, obviously from North
absolutely.
Carolina women's lacrosse, and then one of my old teammates and lifelong friends, Chris Armis, who's a soccer coach, Major League Soccer head coach, and coach at Manchester United. And it was interesting, both of them back to back talked about the importance not just of meeting with your players and formal team stuff, but casual conversations, the little word on the side, the little word. And I imagine as part of this, and while you were talking, anyone's watching this on YouTube could see, as soon as you started talking about that sort of that winning and that winning mentality, instilling it, you leaned in. Like you could see like your passion about that and how important this is to you. Um, and I just was curious about um, for how important it is as the head coach that your players understand I believe in you. And if I believe in you, then you're going to believe in me that hey, we can win. So just curious on your thoughts on that and the importance of just those little words on the side 30 seconds before practice, a minute after, a little individual coaching in an activity in a drill that really makes the difference in that relationship.
I think that goes back to I think, Jerry, your book on love and coaching, like that demonstrates the caring and the love when you're willing to communicate and get to know these players. So 100%, it's incredibly important. And you know, they're gonna go the extra mile for you if they know you care about them. And I think if you don't have that, and I like my players, and I want them to perform because they want to perform, not because out of fear of punishment or failure. I want them to just want to be the best they can be for themselves. Um, but I think there's always, two ways to try and motivate them, and one is old school. I think you yell and scream at them and tell them they need to get better. And I could say some other things that some of these coaches, the language they use, not good in my opinion, to try and get them to play harder, play better. But my strategy's always been to convince them that they need to do it for themselves, them teammates, and for their coaches. You know, that we care about them and that they know that we got their back, and you got to go and put and have our back. That's kind of the way I develop relationships. Like I always fight for and have fought for the athlete in every coaching position I've ever had. And I want them to have everything because that's, I think, part of my job. And
Yeah.
then hopefully that reflects with them that they're willing to go the extra mile for the coaches.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Love.
I think a lot of you're being very humble and you're not going to say it, so I'll say it for you. Every time I've been in your company when you're coaching, from the time you were an assistant at Maryland to right now, is I always felt the kids felt really good. They felt good. They felt safe. They didn't feel judged. They felt like they could take risks. They felt confident. They felt what you said they should feel. They feel like they believe. And you, as a coach, we have to create that environment of connection and caring and love. And that has been a high priority for Gary Gait in his coaching. And so I've been there watching with my own eyes the response people would have, feeling safe to talk to you, not like looking over their shoulder, is the coach, whatever, doing
Right.
this for me. And I think our listeners need to understand that that's something that you learn and it's something that you develop over time. I think for you, following your career, you had it right from the get-go, from the age of 4 or 5, you had those environments. And so what you're doing, your whole coaching philosophy is the result of all your experience. And you found
Absolutely.
what I think is the key to success on all the coaching levels, whether it's basketball. And Steve Kerr, we've had him on the show, and
Yeah.
he said the most important game he ever won in his championship season was the relationship game. And you're nodding yes. And I guess I want the listeners to know that this is something that you have developed over time to become the coach that you are right now.
Yeah, yeah. You got to have that relationship and the trust and the belief and it's always been important to me. Some people may say, "Oh, you seem so comfortable with your players. You're not disciplined enough." I said, "No, they're disciplined because they
Yeah.
respect and you could go. I can tell you our culture here at Syracuse right now is incredible. And these guys, have turned it around from, a team that looked like, had trouble in the past outside of lacrosse, weren't always doing the right thing, to a team that, is introducing themselves, opening doors, helping in the community, really turned around. What's important is to be a good person and a good teammate, and not only amongst our team, but throughout the community. And I think it's really helped develop our culture. And so I'm kind of like, when someone looks and say, well, you're not yelling at them, you're not, I'm like, no, I'm just asking them to do it. And they're doing it because they care. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're young men. I mean, we had a woman, Betsy Butterick, on who was working with the Las Vegas Raiders, and she said she was walking through the building, and they called over one of the players, and they said, "Hey, she's going to meet with the coaches right now. Anything as a player, this guy's an all-pro or whatever that you could say." And they said, "Don't yell at me. Talk to me. I'm a man. Like, just talk to me. Respect
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
You don't have to yell at me to get me to do what you need to do. Just talk to me like I'm a human being." And I think that's so important. And I think it's sad in coaching sometimes that people go, "Oh, well, you're not yelling and screaming and demeaning people, therefore you're soft." It's like, yeah, but who wants to be yelled, screamed, and demeaned all the time? Like, you wouldn't work for that guy. You'd quit your job and
Not
you'd go
me.
someplace else.
Not me. And there's people like that. And there's bosses like that too. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I, I, I kind of look at that as like, so many people look at football because it's forefront in coaching, and it's so hard because uh, football mentality is very different a lot of times, because it does demand so much discipline. And, some coaches go that route where it's all about discipline, organization. It's not about relationships and and the only way they know how to get these people to do it is through discipline and punishments and screaming, yelling.
But
So
I think
different.
we're starting to see a lot more even NFL coaches. I think of Sean McVay, who's
Oh
having
yeah.
great success, and obviously Pete Carroll and
Dungy.
Dan Campbell with the Lions. Like, these people there's a lot of discipline, but there's also a lot of love.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, just a different way. Like, these people, the players want to do it. They make mistakes. You just got to teach them not to make the same mistakes over and over again,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
once you
find
once
ways.
once you have that love in the environment, you can demand almost anything, go the
Yeah.
distance for you, because
Yep.
that the love creates the trust, and the trust means belief. And that gets back to your whole idea of believing whatever the coach is saying. Yeah, I believe in you. I believe we can win this championship. They start taking that on and start demonstrating the kinds of qualities that you're talking about. There's one thing here. I know we're getting kind of close to the end of our time, which makes me sad because I can go on forever with you, Gary
There's a lot we
and
could
John.
talk about
There's
for
a lot
sure.
to, but I understand that you had an opportunity to do something that I've never known anybody to do. I know they do it, but you're the first person I know who has done it. And that is you threw out a pitch at the Yankee Oriole game
The opening pitch.
in June.
Gary,
Yeah.
I had to draw, I believe it or not, one of the toughest things to do, and now I know why
Well,
so many people throw it in the dirt or throw
yeah.
it up, like can't even get it to the near the it.
Well, stop right there. I mean, first of all, how did that come about and how did it feel and what did it look like? I want to know because I didn't see it.
Okay, well, um, so it's I actually got asked to do it the year before for the Mets, because our alumni of New York City, they rally for a baseball game every year. So this year they did it with the Yankees. And so we had 800 alums there at the game,
Wow.
and they invited me to throw it out. And I'm like, perfect. I watch other players do it. They use their lacrosse sticks. So I'm like, great. So I go into our practice facility here. I grab a baseball. I get my stick out. I throw it about 10 times. I'm like, oh, I got this easy.
Yeah.
Yep. So I go down to New York City. I'm staying in their alumni house down there, and got my stick, and they called the night before and they said, Gary, you can't use the lacrosse stick. And I'm like, what? So, all right, got no baseball. I'm in New York City. Then I get up in the morning, train into the game. Got my son, I got my wife. My son lives in the city, so we all go to the game. A few of his friends, some of my team came, 800 alums, the entire crowd, and
40,000 other people.
I haven't thrown a baseball in years. Like I never throw a baseball. Like
Yeah.
so, they hand me the ball. I get near my son. I kind of just flick it at him a couple times, and I go, I guess that's my warm up. And then you walk out on the mound and the guy goes, you want to throw it from halfway? I'm like, hell no. I'm an
Yeah.
athlete. I'm up for the challenge. And so I got the ball, I'm on the mound, and I just had to go back to all of the mental prep that I've done ever playing any sport on belief,
Wow.
trust in your ability, and know that it's going to happen. A couple focal points, throw it higher than you think, and throw it. And luckily enough, I got out, I threw a strike. The back catcher said best pitch of the year by far. I I fist pumped, and I was like, all right,
All right, Gary.
there's
Yeah.
visualization, mental training still working at
Yeah.
58, so what the
Yeah.
And,
hell?
and that was
Yeah.
more nerve-wracking than any championship game you've
Eh,
played.
No,
It was up
but
there.
it was certainly up there. Like it's like just imagine yourself stepping in front of the Yankees crowd right now and throwing the first pitch.
No, it's
Like
crazy.
But
without
it's
a warm up,
interesting.
without a warm up.
You
Like
went right back to your natural instinct, which is to
yeah,
prepare and to prepare your mind and heart
yeah.
to do the job. It was another opportunity to demonstrate the athleticism, but also the composure of what an athlete needs. And you leaned on that and got the ball to be a strike. I am blown away. I mean, that's like another career for you, right?
I think we had a 8 inning no hitter that day, and I threw the first one. So
Nice.
that's what I always joke. We beat
Yeah.
the Baltimore Orioles.
And
Yeah.
that was meaningful too, because it was Baltimore, right? And
Yep,
that's where you lived for so long.
it was. It was.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, Gary, thank you so much. Any final thoughts for our listeners here today? We covered a ton of ground and really some great stuff. And obviously, we wish you the best of luck this season, and hopefully bring home that long-awaited championship to Syracuse. But any final words for the coaches and athletes listening to this today?
No, I think just develop great relationships with your athletes. Athletes, don't be afraid to talk to your coaches, get to know them. And I think that'll take you a long way. And, you put in the work and do what you need to do. And there's so many aspects and to success. And you guys know better than anybody. That's what you do. You study that. It's what I try, and as a coach now, I'm studying it and looking back at all my experiences, everybody else's experience, all the sports psychologists I've worked with, sport performance people, and you got to embrace it all and don't ever get stuck thinking it's got to be done one way or another. Keep your mind open and do what you have to have success.
Throw that pitch.
Throw that
So
pitch.
that pitch.
Get
That
out
pitch.
there, rely on your training, throw that pitch. Gary, thank you so much for being on the Way of Champions. We truly, truly appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you
Gary.
guys.
Jerry, another great conversation with Gary. What a great guy and great coach and groundbreaking coach. And I love some of his stories about coming to women's lacrosse and just saying, wait, no, it's not women's lacrosse. It's just lacrosse.
It's
And in
lacrosse.
lacrosse, you should do this.
Yeah.
I
So
had no
he's
idea about the wooden stick thing.
Yeah, yeah, when I first went to lacrosse, they were just ch making that change. Uh, but I remember that time, and this idea of it's just lacrosse really neutralizes the gender issue
Yeah.
in terms of teaching the game.
Yeah.
But what we didn't get to, uh, I wanted to ask him the question, and I guess I just forgot it. The question would have been, so you went from the women to the men. What could you do with the women that you couldn't do with the men?
Yeah. And vice
Or
versa.
vice versa. What are you doing with the men that there's no way you could do with the women?
Yeah.
And Anson in our talk that when he came on, we kind of attacked that and we got some information. I don't know what happened with that. I got lost in the
Well, we
content.
had so many other different,
So
great
many,
things we were talking about,
so many good things.
that
Yeah.
we didn't, sadly, we didn't get to it, but we made Gary promise to come back on, for
Yeah.
sure.
No, it's rich. Many
Yeah.
years of amazing experience,
Yeah.
uh, for sure. The thing that really, my takeaway again is how strongly that's why he came up with the feelingization, this idea of feeling you can win and then believing that. But he said something that might be missed, and that is, then you got to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, because I can sit here all day and I can feel myself doing something and feel it really well. But if I don't go out and do that work,
Hmm.
the connection's not going to be there between the feeling, my mind, and my nervous
Well,
system, you know?
the first time we had Gary on, we talked about, in in the final four when he dunked the ball over the goal, and no one had ever done that before in a competition and whatever, and they ended up creating a rule around
Yeah,
lacrosse, but
air
because the
gate is what it was
air
called.
gate, right? And we
Yeah.
talked about that, and the first time he said, but that wasn't the first time I did that. I would practice that all the time. And one of the things I really like, about Gary is like his idea, like you can do anything in practice, like go, like make mistakes, but you got to work on it on your own. You got to develop technique and then bring
Hmm.
it to practice and then bring it to a game. Don't go out
Hmm.
to the game and start winging passes behind your back and shooting behind your back and all this stuff if you're not doing it in practice, and don't do it
Yeah.
in practice if you're not doing it on your own.
Yeah.
So he's really very very clear about the process of, you want to
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah.
fantastic, go work on it.
Yeah. 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 No, it's amazing. There's so many gems there.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, do we go this direction? Do we go that direction?
Yeah.
Uh, but that whole thing, I really, that whole thing about the story about throwing the first pitch
Yeah, that was awesome.
and how he felt about it, and he was nervous and he was scared.
Yeah.
Just like so many athletes that come our way as coaches, they're nervous and they're scared and they have to get over it. And the way he said, well, new skill, new opportunity. I had to visualize. I had to give myself an affirmation, and then that just set me straight. And I got up in the mound and I threw the ball and it worked out well. I threw a strike.
Yeah, it goes back to this idea that, right, it's not about being stressed or scared or anxious, or it's not, everyone is. It's about building the capacity
Yeah.
and the tools
Hmm.
to go, okay, yes, this is a stressful situation.
Yeah.
So what are the tools I can rely on that I've always
Yeah.
relied on
Yeah.
to deliver in this moment, right? And that's what it is for athletes. I can't give you confidence. I can't make you unafraid. I can teach you tools to, build the capacity that when you have a 3 foot putt, when you're shooting a penalty kick in a shootout, when you have a one-on-one free throw with 1 second left, you've built the capacity to breathe, rely on your training, and execute in that moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. One other point I'd like to make, that's a great point, John. One other point I want to make is he did tell me at one time, although we didn't talk about it today, is that our book, The Champion Teammate, for the listeners here, he ordered like 67 copies,
Hmm.
and he had all his team read that, and then he makes it to the final four. There's no accident there.
Yeah.
The stuff that's in that book will galvanize your team. It will also create this amazing harmony. between you and your other teammates. And so he's a great believer in that. And he's open. He's a wide open coach. He's a lifelong learner. These are the qualities that we're trying to help people who listen to us understand, that you've got to constantly find ways. Here he is with all that experience, still finding ways to improve upon his craft. And
Hmm.
last year he gave it a shot. He bought the book for the players. They all read it. He told me, he said that was a big reason why they got to the Final Four. They had this amazing connection with each other. So
Hmm.
I just wanted to give a shout out to
Hmm.
the book you wrote, John,
Book we wrote together. Yeah,
book
that
we
was
wrote
awesome.
together.
Well,
Yep.
on that note, everyone, right, if you're interested in that, bulk orders, you just email me, John, John, changeofthegameproject.com, and give you a nice discount and set that on your way. It's just a great team read. Just final little shout out here. We still have some spots remaining in our 2026 Way of Champions conference and retreat and certification program in Colorado, June 11th to 14th. So just to go to the website, Change the Game Project, and you can click on WOC certification or go to Way of Champions and click on that link as well. And yeah, it's going to be another incredible, incredible event. Thanks to Sprocket Sports. Thanks to our Patreon podcast champions. Thanks to you, Jerry, for
Thanks to you, John.
getting Gary back on the podcast. And yeah, remember everyone, your influence is never neutral. So go
Uh,
out there, change the world, make a difference this week. See you again
Absolutely.
next week, everybody.